let's move on. We have Hawk as our first one. Hawk did pretty decent this season, B or C. I think he's still kind of underwhelmed a little bit compared to his contenders' performances from Hawk. I still say he's probably one of the better parts of Atlanta Reign. Inconsistent at the start, but got better throughout the season. Where do we rank him? Because it was a little bit more inconsistent than consistent, but he had a lot of more. He had some consistent performances. Yeah, there's going to be a decent amount of B. Yeah, I probably got to put C. I think Hawk has potential though, because his off-tank play we saw in contenders. Maybe it just wasn't a good team for him. Maybe not good meta in general for Hawk, but I think he has potential to be good. If we looked at his contenders performances, he had potential to be the next best like Western off-tank next to Space, but we just did not see that from him on Atlanta. That could be coaching. That could be players not performing as well as we thought they were. But I think Hawk has potential. It just was not a good season for Hawk with his off-tank play. I think Note had a good season. A lot of people doubted him in the offseason. Thought he was a Diva one-trick, which I hate. People calling players or pro players one-tricks, because at the end of the day, they're really not. Because there's metas, and metas make you one-trick heroes, and I hate that people still say one-tricks. But he had to play Diva for a hot minute this season, and had to play Sigma for a hot minute. So he learned Sigma pretty good, and even in Canada World Cup, I said this a lot before the season started. In Canada World Cup, he actually didn't have that bad of a Sigma when he did play. There was a decent amount of games he actually did not have that bad of a Sigma. Came into Dallas Fuel, and his Sigma was pretty good. His Diva was good. I don't think he deserves the hate he gets, and when it comes to an off-tank, he normally learns that off-tank somewhat fast. I wouldn't say he's fast, but somewhat fast. Or like maybe give him 2 or 3 weeks, which is a little bit too much of time, but at least he still learns that off-tank he needs to learn. Mecco did pretty good this season. At the start, not so much. He did good this season on Diva. His Sigma was clean. I think he is honestly A at start. That may change the more I talk about him. But Mecco was clean this season. Unfortunately, I remember at the start of the season, we kind of thought he was like the worst. But Houston Outlaws in general was probably the worst team in the first couple of weeks of the season. His off-tank got better. His Diva was still clean when he played with what he had with Muma and then Hydration. I think he adapted the situations pretty well when it came to the Houston Outlaws, maybe behind the scenes or in public. I think he did pretty good in general for what he had on the Houston Outlaws. I think he still has potential to be S tier if he was on a different team. McGravy, I think McGravy's solid. I think he's a solid off-tank, honestly, for the LA Valiant. Sucks that he got released. McGravy is pretty solid as an off-tank. Nothing much really say bad about him. He ended up having a lot of good performances, though. I wish he performed consistently those performances. Like, sometimes he looked like an S tier off-tank when he played in some maps, but maybe give him the week later, it's just not as insane as that was that 1 week. If he was more consistent with those like top plays, he would definitely be A for sure. But he was definitely consistent the entire season. He was solid with his his performances, I should say, on Diva, Sigma, and even some Zarya when we saw him bring it out a little bit. Gargoyle, I brought in a lot of hype for Gargoyle coming into the season after what we saw of him perform in season 2. Because when he got signed to the Florida Mayhem in Season 2, he performed really good. And I knew he had a lot of potential coming into this season with Fate, and it ended up coming true. Maybe even better, to be honest. I'm thinking A. I don't think he's B. I saw that a glance at chat. I don't think he's B at the slightest. I think at the start of the season, he was probably S tier. But throughout the season, League has gone up throughout the season as well. And he's still consistent with high performances. But his Diva's clean. His Hog is clean when he gets to play it. Obviously, he occasionally plays it. But his Diva is probably insanely good. I wish we saw more of it throughout the season, to be honest. His Sigma is probably one of the best out there. Definitely A tier. Absolutely. I don't have any comments on his Zarya, though. Hanbin has been clean the entire season. Absolutely clean the entire season on Sigma, on Diva. Majority those are the 2 off-tanks we saw all season long. That's what I'm going to keep commenting on. His peel was great on Sigma and Diva. Best player on Paris, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best players on Paris for sure. Very aggressive. Plays really well with Ben Best and No Smite. He adapts really well to those 2 tanks whenever they switch up. Plays well with Sparkle. And yeah, it's a lot. He does a lot of good peeling. Very aggressive on all tanks. He does a lot of things you really don't see on camera, unless you watch the replay viewer. That could be like booping someone. That could be eating something that didn't pop up in the kill feed, like a nade. A lot of people don't really pay attention to the off tanks eating nades that much, unless the caster says it. There's a lot of things D.Va players like Hanbin do that just insane with his D.Va player Sigma. KSA was probably the best player besides Shockwave on Vancouver, I guess you could say, especially with the ping he had. Actually pretty good. I saw B. I don't think he's B. I don't think he's as good as Note McGravy. KSA actually performed really well in Sigma all season. That's really what we saw him really on this season, was just Sigma. Occasionally, like what, maybe 1 or 2 times or 3, we saw him on D.Va this season. I think he was good. I think he could perform better if he had no ping. Same thing goes if he was on a different team as well. But what we saw of him on Sigma throughout the season was actually solid throughout the season. Could have been better. Sucks he was in a bad team. Absolutely. I think he's good. I think he's probably on. He's just not as good as McGravy and Note. He just isn't. He's definitely C tier though. Punk is next. He first got signed, insanely good player, but throughout the season that kind of fell down. But I think Punk is still like a really good off tank from what we saw of him on the Boston Uprising. I think he is kind of here or C or D, definitely not F tier. How much he's changed the Boston Uprising. He was a huge impact on the team with his D.Va and Sigma. There was definitely a honeymoon phase of Punk, but that kind of went away after the first, what was it? After they went against Paris in a tournament. I forgot what tournament it was. Summer Showdown? I forgot what it was, but they did good. Probably put him C. Janu, ooh. Janu was clean this season. Janu was clean this season. As soon as he came into the Justice, made him look so much better. Even with Roar as the main tank. D.Va was still good. He did the best he could do on D.Va with the team he had, especially if you watch the replay viewer. His DM usage is really well. He was on a better team, absolutely S, but what he has on the Justice and what he could do with it was clean. Also, his Hog was really good in playoffs and all of that. Definitely deserves to be A tier. If people argued S, I can absolutely understand that one. And this isn't just because of Hog in general. Even before Hog, I think I still probably would have put him A. Fury's definitely top tier, S or A. I think Fury still performed good this season. Still what we saw from an all-one at Spitfire. Insanely good, insanely aggressive on D.Va and Sigma. I was worried about his Sigma, but his Sigma ended up being really good when he got to play over Poco. Fury S tier. I've already said it already. He's still really aggressive. He fits the Philadelphia Fusion playstyle, which is really really good, I should say. Yeah, he just plays well with the Philadelphia Fusion on what their playstyle is. And if they ever want to switch up their playstyle, they really just put Poco in. That's all they really do. Marvel's a weird one because all season long, I would say, Marvel did not have the greatest time on off tank. But his playoff run and finals run was clean. I think we're gonna put him B. He was a big part of the playoff run, grand finals as well. How much he brought back. His Sig was always clean all season long, but whenever it came to anything else, it was just bad for the Seoul Dynasty. I think we're gonna put him B though because of what he did in playoffs and grand finals, and just his Sig. Like I said already, his Sig play was absolutely great, but all season long was pretty inconsistent from him still. ChoiHyoBin. Stats. Do I just look at his stats? S tier first on everything when it comes to off tanks. Damage is number 1. Doesn't have that many deaths. Then again, Shock in general, just insanely good team. That makes Choi look good. He gets supported well. Very aggressive. Always at the right spot at the right time. When it comes to his off tank play, his shield placement's actually really good with Sigma. In general, his off tank plays is clean. Let's move on to Space. What is that name? Space. All right. Space is A. No argument about it. You can't tell me otherwise. He's B or S. Maybe if you said S, I mean everything to you. Space has been consistent all season long. Top tier play with what he had. Sometimes his players beside him are pretty inconsistent, but he is top tier. And I think he will always be A tier unless he goes on maybe like Shock or something. And the coaching that team has, he can be top tier. Absolutely. He's been A tier literally every season so far. Hopefully he gets the S one day. Hopefully he gets the S. Nevix. I don't think he's F. I don't think Nevix is F. He has moments. His Sig sometimes pops off. His Diva wasn't the greatest this year, but he's not awful. He still impacts the team in certain ways of his Sigma. He sometimes peels for his team. Uh, Nothing much to really say that he did not have a good season. I think even in general, if he was on even a better team, I don't think I would be ranking him that high. He did not really have that good of a performance this year. Uh, yes, a lot of people still hyped him up. I thought he was overhyped coming into the season because we haven't seen him play in 2 years. You can literally go back to my videos when Nevix was signed, and I said the exact same thing I'm saying now. We haven't seen him really play mainly in 2 years, ever since season 1, and it just makes sense that he ended up being this tier. Bernard, this is a fast one. Bernard is maybe A tier. I think he is A tier. Bernard is absolutely aggressive. He's crazy on the Diva and the Sigma this season. One of the best players in London next to Glister. I think if he was on a better team, he could be S tier. But with what he had, he performed at a good level, consistent level throughout the entire season long. I remember when we first saw him the first couple weeks, he did some things that he shouldn't even gotten away with, but he did them because he's Bernard. He did a great job with what he did on Diva at the start of the season. Did a good job, peeled well for his support line. Always went in J-Mac, always trusted his team. Sometimes it didn't really go out that well, but he always trusted his team. Top level performance from Bernard the entire time. Elsa is D. Did not impress me at all this season. In the slightest, did not impress me at all this season. He played Winston occasionally. It wasn't the worst, but he just did not impress me that much this season. On his Sigma was poor. His Diva was still kind of poor. But that's really it. Now we have Crong. He was a top off tank all year long. I think he's S tier. I see some A's, but I think he was consistent all season long with his Sigma, which we saw a lot more Sigma this season than Diva. But when he did play Diva, occasionally, it was still good. But I think he definitely deserves the S tier. He performed at a high level almost every game, consistent the entire season long. Kyoku, I think Kyoku's solid. I don't think he's awful. I had a lot more high hopes for him coming into this season. I think he ended up performing well though. He was solid on the Hangzhou Spark with Sigma and also Diva. I think he's B though. I think he's solid. I don't think he's A tier. I do think he has potential to be A, maybe even S. Depends on what teams, what happens with Hangzhou Spark next season. If they change some people around. Hotba, not that good this season. I will say, not that good this season. He did have occasionally good performances. Definitely not A tier. Before anyone says that. I think he is better than the people in C though, which may make him go to B. Probably Hotba B though. I think he was pretty up and down this season. He did decent on the Diva, decent on the Sig. Very underwhelming in general from Hotba. I thought he was going to be on the top of off tanks this year, but he ended up not just being on the top in general. Very underwhelming from Hotba this year, unfortunately. Bianca, though, when Bianca did play, Bianca was definitely way better than Hanbin whenever Bianca played. But yeah, Void. Void was clean all season long. All season long on Sigma and Diva. Void was as clean all season long. That's it. I don't think I could put him A. I literally can't. His Sigma play just blows me away every time I watch it. Obviously, like I said, almost every tier so far. Grand Finals was just rough for the Dragons and Philly. But Void was clean all season long. And Void's just a really good player. He plays really well with Fearless and Fleta as well with his off-tank play. Yeah, I think we can rank Poco. He still played a decent amount, or a lot, I should say, throughout the season. Now he's A. He's really close to S, actually. Especially if you watch the replay viewer, he's very aggressive, almost kind of like Fury, but he's just better. Fury's just better than Poco. Poco's close to that playstyle on Diva and Sigma, and I think if Poco went to a different team, maybe like the London Spitfire, Poco could be better than Molf1G if that's the case. I love to see Poco on a different team, starting the entire time with good players beside him, maybe London Spitfire. And I think we'll see him go to S maybe. He still performs well in all the off things that was played this season. Looking at this list, I don't think I want to change anything, honestly. Off things most stack roll, one of them for sure. Obviously next to DPS. I think that's the list. Dude, this is a good list, I think. I like this list.